I think it's time to add some variety to this series. This episode marks a shift where I'll strive to have better balance with regards to the factions that are covered in the Thematic List Build series. This video will be for the Adeptus Mechanicus, and rather than focus on the Mighty Mars or the -1 to hit Styges, I decided on Ryza. I greatly enjoy taking a faction expected for a certain playstyle and implementing them using alternative methods, and with Ryza's trait, in combination with the release of the Skorpius Dune Rider, I've cobbled together a list I am eager to share. A brief note on allies. I normally keep Soup out of thematic list builds. You see, Soup, as with any game mechanic, sees the player base making the most of those tools. The issue present is that in min-maxing within a Soup-enabled environment offers freedom to such a degree it lends itself to manifesting some problematic issues, which I believe don't best serve 40k, but that's not what this video is about. That being said, it was one of the driving factors of this series, the idea of creating fun lists with valid tactics that honor the factions being focused. However, there are allies which I do feel are justifiable for this purpose, and this is one of those cases where we see the Mechanicus allying with Mechanicus Knights. With that out of the way, let's get into my first thematic list build for the Adeptus Mechanicus, specifically Forge World Ryza. The list I've put together comes to 2,000 points on the nose, and features 2 detachments. When it comes to the objective themes of the list, it focuses on close combat, maintaining mobility, and the use of war engines, which is not an official term when it comes to 40k units, but it is a term I am using to represent the loyalist equivalent of demon engines, something I believe Ryza, the Forge world known for innovation and reveling in close quarters combat, would utilize to a great degree. On to the units. This list actually has quite a bit of overlapping synergies, so to better explain the general strategy of the list, I feel it's best to start with our troops choices and build up from there. To start with, the first troops option is a 5-man unit of Skitarii Rangers. Nothing fancy about these guys. Taken as stock with their galvanic rifles, they help fill out our battalion, and would probably best be used to hold rear objectives. Filling out the next 2 troop slots are 2 squads of Skitarii Vanguard, one of 10 and one of 9. The Vanguard have quite the crucial role in the list. Compared to the Rangers, each Vanguard has an 18-inch Assault 3 weapon, which allows them to be fairly effective at clearing chaff units. And perhaps more importantly, their ability Rad Saturation forces enemy non-vehicle units to subtract their toughness characteristic by 1 when engaged in combat against them. This allows the Vanguard to work in combination with our other melee units, and if applied optimally, they can make a huge impact in changing your roll required to wound key targets. Now might be a good point to add in 3 Skorpius Dune Riders to the list. I dig these beach storming sandboats. Beyond their aesthetics, each Dune Rider has 10 heavy stubber shots to add a little bit more anti-infantry attacks. Their main role, however, will be to transport our 2 Vanguard units up the board so they can keep up with the quicker war engines and remain safer during that journey. The last Dune Rider will be transporting a unit of 10 Fulgurite Electro Priests. Coming in at 160 points, each priest has 2 attacks at an effective strength 5 with -2 AP, dealing D3 damage. And now, finally having a transport, they become a far more difficult threat to neutralize. I would move their boat towards a mid-board objective. Ideally, you want to have them destroy an enemy unit as quickly as possible so they can power up using their ability, Siphoned Vigor, which brings their invuln save from a 5-up to a 3-up. When you combine that with their inbuilt 5-up Feel No Pain, it will even have the Death Guard jealous of their resiliency. To represent the mighty war engines of Ryza, I've included 2 squads of 3 Sydonian Dragoons, all with taser lances. Besides having a great presence on the tabletop, I really like what you get with the Dragoons. For 63 points, defensively, you have a model with 6 wounds, a 4-up armor save, a -1 to hit against ranged attacks, and toughness 6. Offensively, each Dragoon has 3 attacks, which hit on 3s at strength 8, -1 AP, and 2 damage flat, and any hit rolls of 6+ score 3 hits instead of 1. This is far better than it sounds. If you are familiar with Necron Tesla carbines, you know how effective this mechanic is on the tabletop. We can close out this battalion with its leaders, 2 Tech Priests. The first is a Dominus. He will be riding in the transport with 9 Skitarii Vanguard. I have given him the relic, the Omniscient Mask, which allows you to reroll all failed hit rolls in the fight phase for Skitarii units within 6 inches, offering good synergy with the Ryza trait, and it's especially good with the Sydonian Dragoons, as any reroll you can get is another chance to make those taser hit rolls explode into 3 hits. The last HQ, and our Warlord, is the Tech Priest Manipulus. He has the Ryza Warlord trait, First Hand Field Testing, which can increase the strength and damage of one of your Warlord's weapons by 1, making his Magna Rail Lance a Strength 8 -3 D3 +1 damage weapon, which is really cool. But the real value he brings in my mind is in his Galvanic Field ability, which allows him to either bolster his warriors or weapons at the start of your movement phase. Choosing the former allows you to add 1 inch to the move characteristic, and add 1 inch to advance and charge rolls made for friendly Ryza models within 6 inches of the Tech Priest Manipulus. This essentially grants the forward moving force, consisting of 3 Dune Riders and 6 Dragoons, an extra 2 inches of movement. I know that 2 inches doesn't sound awfully attractive at first, but moving 2 extra inches in turn 1 will mean you are 2 inches closer to the target you are trying to reach. We have all made charge attempts that have failed within that tolerance, and when reframing this perk in that context, I think its value becomes evident. That's it for our battalion. Our second detachment is a super heavy detachment of Imperial Knights being from House Raven, granting our knights the ability to advance and fire assault and heavy weapons without penalty. The first of the 3 required slots is a unit of 2 Armiger Helverins, providing some high range, highly mobile firepower. Their Armiger autocannons are an excellent tool to deal with light vehicles, which can double as an effective anti-air tool when using the Sky Reaper protocol stratagem. Filling out the next 2 slots are a unit of 2 Armiger Warglaves, with the Heavy Stubber as their carapace weapon, and lastly we have a lone Warglaive, taking the Melt-A-Gun option instead. The Armigers suit the thematic objective quite well. They are also tall walking war machines, with that aggressive stance that want to get into combat. And with them added, the list is complete at 2,000 points, and grants 8 command points. It features several large war engines, which take the form of 6 Dragoons and 5 Armigers, which I feel unifies the 2 factions, and for an AdMech focused list, it is actually quite mobile, and I believe will reward an aggressive playstyle, which fits Ryza's combat doctrines quite well. So that brings this thematic list build to a close. Thanks for watching. I found switching focus off the Astartes to be rather refreshing, and I hope you're able to feel the same way. If you like my content and want to help this channel grow, please consider liking and subscribing. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.